This video is brought to you by Cracks Only. The link is in the video description below to get the latest gear off their website. Whether you play football or you don't, there is something there for everybody. Straight out of LA. Check it out.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Thursday. My goodness me, there is a lot going on this lunchtime, isn't there? That's why I'm a little bit late. I'm about 5 minutes late because I was just getting to grips with all of the stories that are going on. We're here for a press conference reaction, which it looks like Thursday's the new time. Erik ten Hag seemingly has settled on Thursday. KG Thursday. He was right about something. He seemingly has settled on Thursday for the day for his press conferences, particularly, I guess, if a games on a Sunday. So we got a press conference reaction to get into. We've got Manchester United going after yet another executive to go into the sporting hierarchy. This time, Jason Wilcox from Southampton, who's going to report into possibly Dan Ashworth as well. We've got a bit of an update when it comes to the head of recruitment from Brighton. United have an interest in him, as well as Chelsea going after him as well. We then got an update on Roberto Zerbi being linked with Manchester United. And then we've got all of Erik ten Hag's responses and questions and happenings at Carrington as he spoke to the assembled media. Oh my goodness me, there is so much going on this lunchtime. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner because, as I mentioned, there is a lot going on as well. I can see people in the chat. I can see Yusuf with the OWEN emoji right there as well. Rahad says, what's going on, peeps? A lot is going on. I'll tell you, there is indeed a lot going on. Let's start off with the breaking news that broke just before the press conference started as well regarding a new executive possibly coming into Manchester United. And I said I was going to do it, and indeed I have. We've got some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking news indeed. Yeah, that's what happens when you get breaking news. Okay, breaking news coming. I've proper played that like 10 million times in the last few hours as well. I love that. That's one of my best things I've ever done. The breaking news indeed came from The Athletic, came from David Ornstein, saying that Manchester United are working on a deal to appoint Southampton Director of Football Jason Wilcox as a key figure in the club's new sporting hierarchy. United are yet to approach Southampton, but Wilcox, who is well known and extremely highly regarded at Old Trafford, is aware of their interest. Now, the 52-year-old's proposed role at United would report into a sporting director, with Newcastle's Dan Ashworth their top target for that position, which of course we've covered extensively over the last couple of days. Wilcox, before he was at Southampton, was at Manchester City, same place as we've got Omar Barada from. He resigned as Manchester City's academy director in January of 2023, ahead of his move to Southampton. City were keen to keep him and made an offer for him to stay, but he elected to end his 9-year stay with the Etihad Stadium club. Now, as far as what's he done, who is he? Well, Phil Foden, Rico Lewis and Oscar Bob, as well as Chelsea's Cole Palmer, all developed in the City Academy during Wilcox's time as director, a role he began in 2017, having previously worked as an under-18s head coach. Now, appointing Wilcox would be another impressive acquisition for United if the move comes to fruition. They have already appointed Omar Barada as their new chief executive, with the Spaniard set to join from rivals Manchester City at the end of the season. Ashworth, meanwhile, has informed Newcastle that he has been approached in relation to the sporting director position at Old Trafford, and United are prepared to wait before bringing him to the club, rather than paying a large compensation fee. Other figures such as Wilcox could arrive at United before Ashworth. So seemingly, and we did say this, didn't we? We did say that some names you won't have heard of, or certainly United hadn't been linked to in the past, they'll just come out of nowhere and they'll just say, hey, United are going in for him, and certainly INEOS, they're not messing around. They're not wasting any time in putting together this new hierarchy, sporting hierarchy at Manchester United. We've got Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, that situation is ongoing. Now you've got Jason Wilcox possibly coming in from Southampton. What about a head of recruitment? Well, that's also possibly, the ball maybe is rolling on that one as well. This comes from Ben Jacobs, who has tweeted this afternoon saying Brighton's highly rated head of recruitment Sam Jewell is on the radar of both Chelsea and Manchester United, but as of this morning, no approach has been made. Now, this isn't the first time United have been linked to him in the last couple of days. With all of this Dan Ashworth talk with Manchester United, it had also been reported that United were looking at Sam Jewell possibly. Now, it had been reported from the Telegraph today too that for the second time in about 12 months, Chelsea were planning on making an approach, so there could be a bit of a bidding war, a bit of a tug of war for this head of recruitment. Certainly Brighton's a shining example of positive recruitment, not only in terms of incomings but outgoings over the last several years, and that's possibly why we're going after Dan Ashworth as well, isn't it? Certainly too. So lot is happening behind the scenes at Manchester United when it pertains to executives, sporting directors, people coming in as they look to build that football hierarchy project. INEOS certainly are. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford are very busy, and I say expect more of this. Expect more of this. Expect, more of these kind of stories to come out, and hopefully they'll be concluded very quickly as well. Now, there is also a story regarding Roberto De Zerbi being linked to, well, not linked, admired. This is why I think it's important to show as much context as you possibly can when it comes to these kind of stories, because as you can imagine, social media took this one and ran with it, because the story regarding De Zerbi is actually more linking him to Liverpool as opposed to Manchester United. So this is the story. It comes from the Daily Mail, suggesting that Brighton are braced for the possible departure of boss Roberto De Zerbi at the end of the season, with the Italian courted by clubs across Europe. Specifically, this article is about Liverpool, saying Mail Sport understands contingency plans are being drawn up in the event De Zerbi should leave. It is believed the 44-year-old is prominent in Liverpool's thinking as they seek a successor to Jurgen Klopp, who will depart at the end of the campaign. So you're saying, Owen, what does this have to do with Manchester United? This isn't Liverpool view. Heaven forbid it would be Liverpool view or anything like that. But it's this part that's got people talking, where they say De Zerbi is also thought to have admirers among the INEOS group, who now control the football operation at Manchester United, where Dan Ashworth is expected to accept a key role when his exit from Newcastle can be agreed. So it's essentially putting two and two together. I think what they're sort of suggesting, they're saying, well, people within INEOS like him. They're getting people, they're trying to get people in that have a connection to Brighton or have a connection to De Zerbi, Dan Ashworth, possibly Sam Jewell, the head of recruitment. So if, and it's a big if United were considering making a change, maybe they would look at someone like Roberto De Zerbi. But it's far from concrete. It's far from confirmed. It's far from United even planning on making a change at this point. As has been said several times in the reporting in the last couple of days, it's all about putting the footballing structure together, all about making this new sporting hierarchy work and getting everyone in place, or certainly everyone, near enough everyone, in place well before the summer, before they even start thinking about managers, players, or anything like that. And it looks like the pieces are loosely or hopefully being put into place. Barada, Ashworth, possibly Jason Wilcox, possibly a head of recruitment, whoever that may be, whether it is Sam Jewell, whether it is someone else. Those conversations are happening right now, and certainly INEOS, Sir Dave Brailsford, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they are not messing around. They are doing this quick, and they're not looking to drag things out at all. So it's a really interesting situation going on right now at United, and it's refreshing to see them act so swiftly. I do think with the Dan Ashworth one, that is an interesting one, because it does appear, as I mentioned, that Dan Ashworth wants the exit. He wants to move. There probably will be some complications regarding gardening leave, notice period, and what have you. Maybe it might be a bit like Omar Barada, where he can't officially start till the summer, maybe a bit longer. I think in that situation, money talks, and also people that don't want to be around. You can put Newcastle in a situation where you say, look, you've got FFP situations, we can help you with that. Why would you want to put someone on garden leave and pay them for 12 months when you've got FFP issues? And this is the best option for all parties. So I do think that he's not going to set out that big notice period or anything like that. I think it's just going to be a case of United having to pay up, essentially. As far as Jason Wilcox, look, he's at Southampton. He had a big job as the head of City's academy previously, and I guess it's one of those situations where he went from, look, I can be the head of an academy at this club that's being incredibly successful, or I can be the director of football, which is a more senior job with more authority at a smaller club, granted, Southampton, but still it's more responsibility. I think in that instance, if Manchester United come calling and say, hey, we want you to be part of this project, they didn't specify what his role would be, but the suggestion is it would be a director type figure in this new sporting project at Manchester United. It's very difficult to say no, isn't it? And working under someone like Dan Ashworth, whose reputation is very strong, working under someone like Omar Barada, who in the game, his reputation is very strong as well, and seeing how INEOS are kind of moving at the moment, you want to jump on board, realistically, don't you? You want to jump on board and you want to get involved, and it kind of looks like that's what one would think Wilcox is going to do. So that's all going on. We'll get here to talk about press conference, but that's all going on as well. So if we get any more updates whilst we're live here, which we might as well, you can let me know in the chat if anything does break whilst we're live. We'll talk about it here. But we are here to talk about Erik ten Hag, the press conference ahead of Manchester United's trip to Luton this Sunday. It's a 4:30 kickoff in the Premier League. First time ever that United have travelled to Luton in the Premier League as well. So first time ever meeting. But just before I get to that, what are your thoughts in the chat? Let me know what your thoughts are. Is this good news? Are you excited? Are you still cautiously optimistic? Are you impressed that it feels like every 5 minutes there's a new story about United going for another director, putting the puzzle pieces together? Is this good news? And are you impressed? Let me know your thoughts about it in the chat. We can see All Elite in there says, United assemble. Yes, it's kind of an Avengers kind of situation going on right now at Manchester United. Alex says, I think this is Omar Barada recommendation regarding Jason Wilcox as well. Possibly. I mean, they would have worked together in the past as well. Simon says, no effing around too. There you go. C-Max says, look like we aren't getting Ashworth until the summer or after. I think with the Dan Ashworth situation, as I mentioned, I don't think that notice period is going to be a thing. I think it could be a situation where it's a bit like Omar Barada, that he has to start officially in the summer. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe they can get him beforehand. As I said, I think money talks, realistically. I think money talks, and they can find a resolution for all parties. We're in sort of negotiation territory at the moment, aren't we, as well? Ed says, United being forward-thinking. Imagine. And Just Kevin says, impressed that INEOS are getting their top choices and doing it quickly. Yeah, well, let's just, stress they haven't got them or anything like that yet, but it does appear that they're certainly being surgical, and they're certainly, going after who they perceive to be the best in class and people that have very strong reputations within football. I know, obviously, as fans, when they said Jason Wilcox, I didn't remember his name because he used to play. He retired in 2006. I went, oh, really? Is that the same guy? And it was the same guy. As fans, when you hear these names, like when we heard sort of Omar Barada, you go, who? Unless you're a real football thoroughbred involved in the sport or involved in the business side of things, maybe you don't know. But then when you see the CV, you go, well, this is incredibly impressive and something that certainly we're not used to as Manchester United fans. We're used to people being in senior positions at Manchester United that have come through the club and have no real footballing background, no real footballing experience, and it's just kind of, why are they in position? Well, the Glazers like them, so that's about it. And they go, do they have any sporting pedigree? No. Can they make money for Manchester United? Sure. They can do good commercial deals. What about on the pitch? Who cares about on the pitch? That's kind of really been the recruitment process in the past for executives at Manchester United, and hopefully that's changing as well. Amit says, summer window is going to be the real test to confirm where we are heading. Absolutely as well. But for that test to be successful, you have to have the right people in place to take it in the first place, don't you? And it would appear that INEOS are certainly looking to do that as well. So that's kind of the latest updates regarding all of the other news stories that's been going on over the last couple of hours as well. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. We've got nearly 500 people watching, so if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's see if we can get the likes up as well. But let's talk about the press conference. Erik ten Hag spoke to the media at Carrington ahead of, as I mentioned, Sunday's trip to Luton. Now, the first question was an update on Luke Shaw. Of course, we saw Luke Shaw come off at half-time against Aston Villa at Villa Park last Sunday. And after the game, he said it was a precaution. He said it was just a precautionary situation because of Shaw's injury history. United have got to play it safe. The Twitter account United Insider said that also, that it was a precaution. He was expected to be available for Luton, but maybe not so much because Erik ten Hag admitted it's going to be pretty touch and go until the weekend. Here's what he said. He said, Luke is doubtful for the weekend, but we are positive he can make it. He came out as a precaution. It was the right direction. We work until Sunday. So it's a bit of, I guess, contradictory stuff there, saying he's doubtful for the weekend, but we're positive he can make it. So I guess it's going to go right down to the wire when it comes to Luke Shaw, if he's going to be available or not. If he's not, thinking about the options that we have, we're kind of screwed because, as you'll see in just a second, that means we've got one fullback available, and that's Diogo Dalot. It's not even a situation of Wan-Bissaka playing right back and Dalot playing left back, because Wan-Bissaka's out and he's actually out for several weeks. Ten Hag reveals that a bit later on. So we've got to hope that Luke Shaw can make it, but I can understand the sort of precautionary nature that Erik ten Hag is probably looking at, thinking we cannot afford to have this guy out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe even longer, months, because we rushed him back because we didn't have anyone else available. Because these other guys, Wan-Bissaka, he's going to be out for a few weeks. Malacia, we did get a Malacia question later on, which is quite interesting. Didn't reveal the injury, but did talk about Malacia, which is one of the first times that question has even been asked in the press conference. But sure, it's going to be touch and go. If it's not him, as to what they do, I mean, do they put Lindelof back there for an entire game? At Kenilworth Road, that kind of worries me a bit because we saw that Lindelof did struggle there, but the options are limited, really. Who else could it be that could go there? You know, would they move Dalot to left back and then put Lindelof at right back just because he'd be more comfortable there? I'm not sure. We're kind of screwed. And it goes back to the discussion that people did have when the news came out about Sergio Reguilon being sent back to Spurs. Now, of course, he's at Brentford. People said at the time, is that a risk? Is that a risk? You know, sending him back, and with Malacia not being available at that period of time, the hope was he was going to be back at the beginning of the year. He had that setback in late December, and now we still have one. We have one left back that's kind of maybe not fit. And this is what I've said when it comes to Luke Shaw too. I really think there needs to be a conversation had with Luke Shaw, because I think that Erik ten Hag, I don't think, can preach consistency. I want to play the same back four. It's about playing the same players every single week and then have Luke Shaw as a fundamental part of that back four. The reason I say that is because we know the situation with him at this point. He's been at United for a very, very, very long time. And you either accept that he's going to be out of action for an unspecified amount of the season every season, because he will be, and you just accept that, and you have contingency plans. You have a backup that you can do a job when Luke Shaw isn't there, or you find someone else better and that's also more consistent. Because I think right now, this season, if we had a consistent left back that was constantly available, even when Luke Shaw came back, Luke Shaw would be on the bench because Ten Hag's preaching consistency. So I think that's something to really address in the summer. I think it's either look at a backup that's at an equal level to Luke Shaw, possibly younger and can develop into something, or you look for a new starting left back, because if you're preaching consistency, Luke Shaw's availability, it's a problem, and you can't shy away from it. No one's doubting his quality, but when it comes to his availability, I mean, the record really does speak for itself. He's had some bad injuries in his career, but since then as well, he's had situations where, you know, he's out for a few weeks, comes back, out for a month or so, come back. That's the situation with Luke Shaw. So I think that is absolutely something that needs to be addressed as well. So the next part was about the other injuries, as I mentioned. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka, not available. He will take some weeks, according to Ten Hag, because he picked up another injury in training last week. Mason and Terrell will take some more weeks. This was the second part about it. The second part here is about Terrell Malacia, because he was asked about Malacia. He's been out for a long period. We saw he was out injured. Then we saw him back on the training pitch. And then there was the statement saying he had a setback. So what's the exact injury and what happened? Ten Hag said he had setbacks during his rehab process. It takes too long. It's bad for him, bad for us. But now we turned a point and it's positive and he will return soon on the pitch. It won't take long before he's returning to team training. So Ten Hag suggesting that it's still going to take a couple of weeks, but it won't take long. Once he's back, he'll be back and he'll be ready to go. I don't know how much I necessarily agree with that because given the longevity, given how long he's been out for, once you're back on the pitch, it's still going to take some time before you're going to be really, really ready to go. I think the sort of social media thing about we don't even know what's wrong with Tyrell Malacia, we do know. We do know what's wrong with Tyrell Malacia. He's got a knee problem. He's had knee surgery twice. That's what I don't get. People go, that's not commonly known, but it is. Like it's been said that a couple of times. The timeline for Tyrell Malacia was he had a knee problem towards the end of last season. They opted not to have surgery and rehab. He came back right at the start of pre-season, realized that wasn't going to work, so he had a big knee surgery. I don't know the specifics of the knee injury, but he had a knee injury. And then the expectation was that he was going to be back towards the end of the year. Towards the end of the year, they released a statement saying that he had a setback and had to undergo surgery again, but he'd be back at the beginning of the year. Beginning of the year's come and gone, and he's still not back. But he's got a knee problem. And my concern would be a knee problem that you've had 2 surgeries on, and he's young. He's not super young, but he's still young. I think he's 23, 24, something like that. That's a big injury, a big injury. And I don't think he's been particularly known for picking up injuries as well. I think it's the first real big one of his career. And either way, it's something that United need to look at, I think, with just that left-back position in the summer. When you're talking about recruiting for positions, what we need is consistency. What we need is someone that's available all the time. So that's the latest when it comes to Malacia. Mason Mount, they're still saying a couple of more weeks. I mean, what a disaster. What a disaster this season has been for him, realistically. A couple more weeks, we're looking at maybe March. There's an international break in March. Maybe it's after that he comes back. I don't know. But an absolute disaster of a season. This has been his worst injury season ever. It's a calf issue that's had him out for ages at this point. And as I've said, when it comes to Mount, I worry for him in the sense of if he comes back and picks up another injury that's unrelated to the calf, then I think he's in massive trouble for his United future because, he's had the hamstring problem this season, the calf problem. If he comes back and drops out quickly again, then you, unfortunately, you have to be quite ruthless and say it's not working out. And I know that could be very harsh to write him off. And I'm not saying after one season. I mean, if he comes back, makes it to the end of the season, but then if he has a situation next season where he's out of action, not with like a broken leg, but I mean just another muscle injury, then you can there's only one way to judge that, as it's not working out. So he's, I think, in very dangerous territory. Once he gets back, he's got to stay back and he's got to play and he's got to make a difference. I really think so, certainly. So we'll wait and see what happens with Mason Mount. So that's the latest when it comes to the injuries, specifically to Mount, Malacia, and then Wan-Bissaka out for several weeks. So once again, the fullback position is just it's just a bit of a disaster this season. Once again, we find ourselves with one available fullback, possibly 2. Luke Shaw, 1.5 maybe. 1.5 fullback. It's nuts. Just Kevin says, I feel for Malacia. These setbacks must be so draining mentally. K7 says, Owen, he's screaming at me. Speak on Erik ten Hag acknowledging he can't be a one-man island. Yes, that was something that was brought up later on. We go through it in chronological order as well. What else we got here? Ed says Mason works in head office. He's part of the PR team. Yes. And Chris Day says, what was it? £50 million we paid for him for a few games early on. Again, and because even this is the thing with Mount as well, isn't it? Is even when he came back after that hamstring injury, he didn't really. I was thinking of getting a siren on the soundboard, but they were very loud, very aggressive. But still, with Mason Mount, when he came back after that hamstring injury, didn't really play. He was on the bench for a while, came back, did his calf, and then disappeared again. So, it's crazy. Tabrez says, I'm back, baby. By the way, it's pronounced Tabrez. We shall remember. Tabrez. There you go. Tabrez is back. So there you go. Appreciate the super chat. How many likes are we currently on at the moment as well? We've got over 500 people watching. We've got over 100 likes, 110 likes. Let's see if we can get that to 200. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. C-Mac says, if you're saying that about Mount, should we not keep the same energy for Malacia and Martinez? Very different situations, because Malacia and Martinez last season played the majority of the season. Mason Mount's played a handful of games for Manchester United, realistically. And the injuries that happened to Martinez, this is the Martinez, Lisandro Martinez is not injury prone. This is the weird thing, I think, with this, is people remove context from these kind of situations. Lisandro Martinez played against Sevilla and got his foot caught in the ground and shattered his foot. He then had surgery, which was botched, and he had to undergo surgery again. He came back, was ready to go, and someone fell on his leg, and he did his MCL. Terrell Malacia played the majority of last season and didn't have any injury troubles until the end of it, and he's had this one big injury. Mason Mount already has had 2 significant injuries and has barely played for Manchester United. That's, to me, that's why I see the difference in that, to be honest, because they've already contributed. Mason Mount has not contributed so far at all, is he? If someone can tell me that he has, I would say how. You know, Lisandro Martinez has, Terrell Malacia certainly has, but Mason Mount hasn't. So I think that he's on very shaky ground, to be honest with you. Where are we at next? The next question was about Kenilworth Road, going to Kenilworth Road. Erik ten Hag, and this is where, again, you have to watch it, because this quote initially seems to be very stupid, but he's been incredibly sarcastic. So he was asked, you know, have you spoken to Luton, to the players about playing at Luton? Have you spoken about playing at Kenilworth Road? You know, so smaller stadium, smaller, you know, more intense atmosphere. Nowhere's like playing there. And Ten Hag said, is the pitch smaller or longer? Is it 11 versus 11? No referees are coming. He's being sarcastic. He said, every ambience is different, which is what I wanted to say. We have to deal with the circumstances, and it's about playing football. We have to make it our game, and it doesn't matter who you face. We respect every opponent. We are not in a position to underestimate any opponent. I have a lot of respect for this team, and we have to play our best football. So he's basically saying, look, it doesn't matter really where you go. Obviously, every stadium's got a different atmosphere and it's different conditions, but you treat it the same. It's 11v11. There's a referee on the pitch. You have to have the same intensity, the same aggression. Now, it's great to say that, but we have seen Manchester United go to away games and show a lack of aggression and fight sometimes. I mean, it's the clip, isn't it, of before the Nottingham Forest game. They're in their little team talk, their huddle, going, they don't want to be here. They don't want to be here. And we've seen this season good teams go to Kenilworth Road and struggle, whether it be Arsenal, whether it be Liverpool. They've gone there and they've struggled. Why? Because it's the leveller for Luton. Of course, Luton can't compete with Premier League teams most of the time, with the players that they've got, the budget they've got, everything that they've got. What they can do is utilise that stadium as a weapon and make it level the playing field, make it nasty, make it difficult for these pampered Premier League players or these pampered international players going, you're not going to like it here. Well, make sure that you don't like it here. And United have to be aware of that as well. And that is my concern for the weekend. I think we'll win. We should win, obviously. But we have seen teams struggle to go to Kenilworth Road this season. And if we're not up for it, then we will be in a spot of bother. Absolutely will be in a spot of bother. We cannot be arrogant enough to think that we'll go there and we'll just roll them over. Because other teams have tried this season and that hasn't happened. So we need to make sure that we're up for it. We need to make sure we have that intensity and manage that occasion well. The atmosphere is going to be intense. Of course, it's the biggest game. It's the game probably most likely that when Luton got promoted, they looked down the fixture list and go, that's when Manchester United are coming to town. So it's the one that everyone looks for. So we've got to make sure that we're up for it and we match that intensity, because it's one of those games where it's a no-win game almost, isn't it, really? And what I mean by that is, if you win, you should win. Luton. You kidding me? Luton should beat Luton. If you draw, you drew against Luton. If you lose, embarrassing. People are tuning in on Sunday to hope Man United slip up and laugh. It's one of those kind of games. It's a no-win game. You just got to get in, get the result, get out. I don't even care about performance, because it's a big banana skin of a game. Get in, get out, gone. So, yeah, that's what United have to be the weekend. They have to let the quality shine through and, again, move on, absolutely. So the next question was about, as from Melissa Reddy, talking about the 6 matches unbeaten, very positive on the pitch, positive developments off the pitch after INEOS and their ambitions. Erik ten Hag said the following. He said, quote, and this was also about actually the sporting, working with others and working with a sporting director as well. So initially, this quote doesn't say it, but they was talking about INEOS saying, you feel the ambition, it brings mood and spirit in the club, belongs in the club. He also said the players and the staff are very aligned with INEOS, saying they want to win, want to achieve the highest, and very aligned on that as well. The next part, which is the quote on the screen right now, was about the speculation about the sporting director and, what's his experience of working with a sporting director and the decisions being made and all that kind of stuff. He said, I think it is very important you are on one page about football philosophy, about football tactics, about the profiles of players you need to have in the team. So it's very important to have very good communication so you get the right players. It is one of the most important factors to develop a good team, that you have the right players, but you also the right characters. That means you have to do the right work and be aligned, and it's a long process to get the right players in. Now, there was a lot of talk about sporting directors. Of course, there's been so much chat about it over the last couple of days, hasn't there, with Dan Ashworth and all that kind of stuff. But I think there was a super chat, I think yesterday, I think it was from Amanor, apologies if I'm incorrect on that, saying Dan Ashworth's job is to implement a style of football on Manchester United. And I pushed back on that. I said, no, that's not the case. That's the head coach. Head coach implements a style of football. What it's the job of a sporting director to do is kind of what Erik ten Hag is saying there. It's to everyone being on the same page. Everyone be on the same page, be aligned on what is our football philosophy? What are our tactics? What kind of players suit this football philosophy? What kind of players will fit this tactic? And then the sporting director can make sure that's implemented throughout the club, through the into the academy, through the academy coaches, but also when recruiting players, it's this kind of player. This is the kind of player we're looking for. This is the kind of person we're looking for. And to do that, you have to be on the same page and you have to be aligned. And Erik ten Hag has been very bullish, really, in his press conferences. Probably the most I've heard him, certainly today, was when he was saying, we're totally aligned. We're totally aligned with INEOS. But also, as you can see as we'll go on, he does say that he doesn't have an influence on these sort of bigger creative decisions, shall we say, or bigger hires. And I think that's quite interesting too. So, yes, he's saying that that's what had to work with a successful sporting director. That's what you kind of need to have. And he also then was talking about, have you been in that situation before? What kind of situations have you been in before when it pertains to sporting directors? And he said, I've been in several situations, alone in charge, cooperation. I've dealt with several situations. So he said, with this one, it's so intense with a number of games. You need people around you who are on the same page and working on the same targets to achieve high ambitions. But this is quite an interesting question with this. This is an interesting one because he was asked if he has any input into these kind of appointments. Do you have any input into the appointment of the sporting director? Do you have any input into executives coming in at Manchester United on the sporting side of things? And Erik ten Hag had the following to say. He said, I don't know anything about changes. I talk with the new sporting organisation, but it is not up to me. I am working and my focus at this point is on this team. We plan in this construction what we have in the club and for the future. We have a look, and now the window closed in January and we are working on the plans for the summer. So Erik ten Hag is suggesting that he doesn't know anything about any changes. He just works in the day-to-day. He's only working in the current construction, which I think is interesting for him to say that, oh, well, I just work in the current construction. And I'm sure, look, on a day-to-day basis, you do. So John Murtough is still the football director. So he will have his conversations, daily conversations, and I'm sure it's probably just a line of, well, it's business as usual until it isn't. Until we make changes, until people come in, you carry on as what you're doing. So you have these discussions, you have these meetings. John Murtough continues to do his job until he's no longer in the job or anything like that. I don't know what if he would really come out and say in the press, oh yeah, I'm having talks with INEOS about who I think should be the new sporting director and who should be the new director of football, because that would imply he knew something about John Murtough leaving or something like that, right? So I suppose it's difficult to what he can and can't say in that instance. I'd be very surprised if he hasn't heard anything, because he just said right there, I'm having talks with the sporting organisation, and I'm sure that Sir Dave Brailsford or Jim Ratcliffe would have probably kept Erik ten Hag abreast of. There are going to be some changes, maybe. We're going to be looking at bringing some people in, changing the structure. Once, I don't put it this way, I don't think he's going to be blindsided by any of this. I can't imagine he would be blindsided by any of it. And as far as would he have any input into the appointment? I mean, look, if I suppose you could look at it, you can look at it two ways. One way you could look at it is, if Erik ten Hag, if INEOS were definitely 100%, 10 million % keeping Erik ten Hag around, and they wanted to build everything around him, then I suppose they could go to him and say, who have you worked with in the past, or who would you recommend? Who would you like to work with? Who do you have a good relationship with? Right? In the same way that Pep and Cheeky worked together, right, at sea. Like, they could do that. Who have you worked with in the past? It's not going to be Overmars, right? But the point being is they could do something like that. They haven't. They haven't done that. Does that mean they're getting rid of Erik ten Hag? No, it doesn't necessarily. But at the same time, they might. This is what I was saying before. I said it to KG, I said it to Flex, said it on the Morning View, said it on the news show last night. There's no way when these appointments happen, Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada, whoever, Erik ten Hag's name doesn't get brought up. Because of course he does. He gets brought up, and probably the question is, what do you think of Erik? What do you think we should do with him? Should we keep him? Do you want to work with him? What do you think? All that kind of stuff. And it'll be interesting to know what their responses are, because it's absolutely been brought up. So I don't know what to read into that one. In the same way that you could look at it as, well, does that mean he's not going to be kept around? Not necessarily. He's just focused on the now, realistically. It'll be interesting to know if INEOS have, given him any reassurances. Yeah, we're going to stick around. We're going to keep you. Or if it's just been, again, very top level stuff, very top line stuff. We are going to be making some changes. Some people are going to be brought in, but you just focus on the football side of things. Because as I've said before, if Erik ten Hag wins the majority of the games between now and the end of the season and qualifies for the top 4, I think INEOS keep him around. If we have the second half of the season is like the first half of the season, then he'll find himself in a bit of a pickle, I think, because INEOS will go, wow, new structure, we're making some changes, maybe we do make a change there. So I think it's an interesting answer, and it's an interesting debate, certainly. Andy with a super chat says, could we please get KG My Heart on the soundboard? Well, I'm a big fan of the breaking news one earlier on. We don't have any breaking news, but I want to play it again.
Breaking news.
And then I'll just go into David Ornstein from The Athletic has written about Erik ten Hag and his future at Manchester United, agreeing a 10 million year deal at the club. Let's go to Carrington Live. I mean, it just works. Everything just works with that. It's proper newsy music as well. It's just tremendous. Now I just got to hope that when we are live, we do get some breaking news, and I can keep pressing that button, because I think it's the best thing I've ever done, certainly as well. Big up Minna is in the chat as well. Says big up everyone. Not Minna's nephew. Minna's in the chat, and they're totally, different people, different accounts. Reassured. That's the rumor going around. I don't know. Still recovering from the embarrassment, really, of what happened on the EAFC stream the other day. Yeah, that's it's difficult. Kind of difficult as well. Tabrez says sacking Ten Hag is just going to set us back 2-3 years unless we have a proper plan in place. Depends if they're going to. Depends. I guess the plan could be in place because they're getting these new people in as well, aren't they? But that plan could include Erik ten Hag, so they wouldn't get rid of him. I'm not sure. Where are we at when it comes to likes as well? We've got over 600 people watching, less than 200, less than 50 away from 200 likes actually as well. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. The big guy says, give it a rest with the Erik ten Hag agenda. He's here to the end of the season minimum. Move on. I wasn't saying that Erik ten Hag was going to get sacked before the end of the season. In fact, that's what I said, that he'll go to the end of the season and then they'll have that discussion. That's what's going to happen. It's so weird, isn't it? Because you talk, even now, when you bring up Erik ten Hag and just the fact that that will be a discussion point, because inevitably it will. people get very prickly about it. Very, very prickly. I'm of the mindset, like I said, that I think if he keeps getting results, I think INEOS are more inclined to keep him than get rid of him. I think a lot has to go wrong for him to go at the end of the season, to be honest with you. So you say that, and then people go, so you're saying you want him to leave? Damn it! Is that what you're saying? I've been recently saying praise Erik ten Hag. Been people saying that even though we've been winning games, that the performances are still rubbish and he still needs to go. I'm saying just he's got to get results between now and the end of the season. That's all. It's what it's going to be all about. And recently he's done that. So I think a credit to him, certainly. Where are we at when it comes to the press conference as well? The next question was, can these appointments lift the mood at Old Trafford? Because that has been something that people have been pointing out since we've been getting more and more sort of clarification with INEOS and these hires and these appointments and what have you. There has been an uptick on the pitch, or certainly an improved perception, improved mood around Manchester United. So the question was, can these appointments lift the move? And Erik ten Hag said, quote, I think everything is always aligned. We are a club, not an isolated department, the first team. But for the mood of the club, the team needs to perform and get the right results. We kind of really dodged the question, but I think so. I mean, I saw an interview with Harry Maguire, and he was suggesting that having Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford speak to the players and speak to employees has given the club a bit of renewed energy. And to be honest, why wouldn't it? I mean, the club has been frozen for the last 12 months, realistically. There's been no strategy because they didn't know what the future was, what the future looked like. So for good, bad or indifferent, it's good just to have a little bit of planning for the future in general, isn't it? To have, and then let alone people come in to say that the primary focus is on winning things. So I think the news of a new CEO and sporting director, and certainly the perception that changes are being made for the better, absolutely improves the move around the club. And does it make its way to the pitch immediately? I'm not sure. You could argue it makes its way to the pitch in the sense of players might be sort of fighting for their future, being like, I've got to show and prove my worth. Otherwise, I'm out of here in the summer. These guys are ruthless. They'll get rid of me. In the past, I'd have just dug my heels in. But no, these guys will find a way to get me gone in the summer. I've got to prove that I'm part of the project and I need to be kept around. So maybe that's how it's find its way to the pitch. I'm not sure. And finally, the next question, or the final question, was about, once again, INEOS and the investment getting closer, saying that, Erik ten Hag, you've had uncertainty in your reign. Will stability and the long-term direction help you do your job better? And Erik ten Hag said, I'm working, I'm happy now in this construction, and when things change, they will tell me. But in a club like Manchester United, you can't do everything alone. It's impossible. You need very good people around you. I am happy, but at a club like Manchester United, also have to look for better. Never be satisfied. Good is not good enough. Always looking for better and always try to every day to do better than the day before. So he was saying that he's happy now. He's happy in this construction. And it kind of goes back to my point, where what he's suggesting that, I guess at the moment, it's business as usual. There's the current construction as it is right now, which really hasn't changed. Patrick Stewart's still the interim CEO. John Murtough's still the football director. Darren Fletcher's still a technical director, whatever the hell that means. And nothing's really changed in that respect. So he's going to continue to do that. And he's happy when it is with what's going on right now. And they're planning for the future. When things do change, he'll be informed. And I suppose it's just the question of, has he already been told that these changes are coming? Or is it just going to be a case of, this is the new hire, he's going to be working with you? Or has he really been consulted on that? He says he doesn't have an influence on it or an input on it, and he doesn't know about the changes, but that could just be him being very, very cautious about it as well. And he did, when he did say, at Manchester United, you have to seek for the best, or good is not good enough. Look for better. I thought, here we go. People are going to use that quote against him, aren't they? So look for better. Better than you then, Erik. So here we go. That's going to be used against him. That's terrible. But yes, so that was his press conference. Quite an interesting day, certainly, for Manchester United. More changes, more hires seemingly on the horizon. If you are just joining us once again, the breaking news this afternoon, lunchtime, was regarding Jason Wilcox, the director of football of Southampton, possibly being approached by Manchester United as well. Actually, I'll go through these posts once again as we wrap things up. From The Athletic, David Ornstein was reporting. Let's get this one actually back to the start where we are. There you go. Saying Manchester United are working on a deal to appoint Southampton director of football Jason Wilcox as a key figure in the club's new sporting hierarchy. Currently, United are yet to approach Southampton, but WILCOX, who is well known and extremely highly regarded at Old Trafford, is aware of their interest. The 52-year-old's proposed role at United would report into a sporting director, with Newcastle United's Dan Ashworth their top target for that position. WILCOX resigned as Manchester City's academy director in January 2023 ahead of his move to Southampton. City were keen to keep WILCOX and made an offer for him to stay, but he elected to end his 9-year stay with the Etihad Stadium club. Phil Foden, Rico Lewis and Oscar Bobb, as well as Chelsea's Cole Palmer, all developed in the City Academy during WILCOX's time as director, a role he began in 2017, having previously worked as under-18s head coach. Appointing WILCOX would be another impressive acquisition for United if the move comes to fruition. They have already appointed Omar Barada as their new chief executive, with the Spaniard to join from rivals Manchester City at the end of the season. Ashworth, meanwhile, has informed Newcastle that he has been approached in relation to the sporting director position at Old Trafford, and United are prepared to wait before bringing him to the club, rather than paying a large compensation fee. Other figures such as WILCOX could arrive at United before Ashworth. In addition to that, United have been linked to the head of recruitment at Brighton, which you can see on the screen right now, saying, this comes from Ben Jacobs, saying Brighton's highly rated head of recruitment Sam Jewell is on the radar of both Chelsea and Manchester United, but as of this morning, no approach has been made to Brighton. Chelsea have previously made an approach for him, but that was rebuffed. They're looking like they could be lining up a second one, but United could also be interested as well. So certainly a lot going on in the world of Manchester United. And of course, if anything else does break, if we get any more news and information, we will be here bringing you updates, whether in pre-recorded or live form. We'll bring it to you. So be sure to smash a like on that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Make sure you've got notifications turned on and you won't miss a single thing. What's on tap for the remainder of the day? Well, 6 p.m. we've got the What the Devil podcast episode. Is it 4? I think it's episode 4. A collaboration between United View and United District. That's coming out later on today, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. Tomorrow, of course, we'll be back, Morning View, and then the Trinity podcast. That is episode 3. Is coming out. Flex, KG, and myself back to chat all that's been going on this week with Manchester United. A lot of people really enjoying the Trinity podcast. So have a great evening, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.